What's good, everyone? Matt here from UK Nets Fans, and I'm joined by Aidan and Cammy Anderson for another episode of BK to UK, the British Brooklyn Nets podcast. On today's episode, we'll be covering the return of the Brooklyn Nets to NBA action as the preseason kicked off. We'll be discussing the win over the Wizards and the absolute massacre of the Celtics, as well as discussing what's going on in the world of the Nets and looking ahead to the season starting properly on December the 22nd. Make sure you're following us on Twitter and Instagram at UK Nets Fans, the pod itself on Twitter at BK to UK Pod, and subscribe to us on YouTube by searching UK Nets Fans. All of our episodes are available to watch, and we'd really appreciate your support there. We've also got a Teespring store where you can buy tees and hoodies and other bits and bobs to rep the Nets colours and support what we're doing here at UK Nets Fans. But with that out of the way, gentlemen, how does it feel to have the Nets back?
Amazing. Although it was only pre-season, Nets basketball is finally back. And I think in one of the earlier episodes, I'd said the bubble wasn't proper Nets basketball, but this feels like proper basketball again. We're a few days out from the actual season starting at time of recording. And yeah, pre-season went well and fantastic to be back.
Yeah, just a bit emotional, actually, I thought. Just like that Washington game especially. For large parts of the game, I felt like it didn't actually kind of feel real for a while. Just seeing Kevin Durant and Kyrie balling out in Brooklyn Nets uniforms, it was just insane. But yeah, no, as Cammy said, it was absolutely fantastic. The team looks amazing. They look ready to go, and I just can't wait for next week to get going now.
Yeah, it's been too long for hearing that Yes Network theme tune, you know? Like seeing that dun dun dun, and just seeing like even them panning in. Like obviously there's no fans in the stands, but they're still out. They're at the Barclays Center. The outside shots of all like the night Brooklyn at nighttime just gave me chills. And yeah, I think it's starting to feel real that KD and Kyrie are part of this team, because obviously they are now. But it just still not used to it. But I still love it. But as you rightly said, Aidan, like it's preseason, so we shouldn't get too carried away, but we are going to cover the games. But before we do, we're just going to have a little bit of just a little look round at the other stuff that's going on with Nets news this week. And after a lot of people sort of had a big song and dance and really, really puffed their cheeks out at Kyrie Irving, apparently boycotting the media all season long. He broke his silence like a couple of days later and spoke to the media. So was it all a false alarm? Was it a storm in a teacup? What do you guys make of Kyrie sort of satisfying his contractual obligations and talking to the media?
Yeah, I think you're 100% when you call it a storm in a teacup, to be honest with you, Matt. Ironically, yeah, obviously some members of the national media automatically saw the worst in the statement and turned it dark like they've been doing with every Kyrie story for the last 6 years or so. I mean, I have to say, I was guilty myself, kind of watching the pod back from last week. You do sometimes fall into that habit of reading kind of media stories and think that that's the kind of truth straight away, thinking, oh, they must have had a bit of inside knowledge. But Kyrie left that kind of statement very open, and at that time I still am certain that he wasn't 100% sure how he wanted to take that, which is the kind of guy he is. He kind of just looks at things in different ways and then decides what he's going to do as he kind of comes to that moment. In terms of the interview itself, I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I think it was actually probably the best interview we've had from training camp so far. I mean, you could watch him speak about kind of watching paint dry and you'd make it interesting just because of his kind of mannerisms and the way he talks about things. He was very polite and thankful to the reporters, which I really liked as well. He's very good at kind of saying the reporters' names. He's like, oh, thank you very much, Brian, to Brian Lewis. And I like that. I just think because you can so easily just see the media as one big thing, but when you kind of take a name and be like thankful, like it makes them feel a bit special as well. But yeah, no, and a great interview altogether, some really interesting points, and I'm delighted that he's going to keep talking because I think he's so interesting.
Yeah, I mean, as we've always kind of said, for all the kind of hate he gets, he's a very smart man, and you could really see that from just the kind of way he spoke, and as Aidan says, his mannerisms, and he just makes everything so interesting. It could be the most boring thing, as Aidan says, watching paint dry, but you just want to listen to him. And kind of some of the stuff he did say in this interview was huge. He kind of gave his reason behind kind of why he wasn't speaking. The kind of quote he gave was he felt there was a mistreatment of what he described as artists, including himself, and kind of doing their trade. He wanted to focus on work with no distractions and stuff like that. So, I mean, you can understand that. Obviously, the other players didn't quite do that. They still worked and done the interviews. But if Kyrie wants to do that and he's now speaking to the media, well, it doesn't really matter. The kind of, as you kind of correctly described it, a storm in a teacup, really. And some of the other things he pointed out was, big fan of Steve Nash. I think one of the quotes was, he commands the respect, and he also retracted his comments where he said on the KDE podcast, I don't think we're going to have a head coach. So, I mean, I think he's kind of realised maybe overstepped the mark a little bit, maybe not purposely, but given the way it's understood. And I think he's trying to, I wouldn't say mend the relationship with the media, like Aidan said, a lot of kind of personal addressing, and just he was kind of trying to build that relationship and paint himself as a good guy, which we ultimately all know he is. And I think the way that the Celtics players certainly welcomed him back for the pre-season game, which we'll get onto later, certainly shows that he's not this bad guy who wants all bad things and stuff. And another thing that I quite liked from this interview was him naming the partnership with him and KD 7-11, obviously the two numbers. Now, as a big fan of 7-Eleven from when I went to NYC, big fan of the Slurpees, if the 7-Eleven partnership's anywhere as good as the 7-Eleven like stores in the US, we're in for a real treat with KD and Kyrie this season.
Yeah, I did see that, and I was trying to think of a joke where it's like, how would you like this L given to you, paper or plastic, by 7-Eleven? But I'm still working it. I'm workshopping it. But no, yeah, it was really good to see Kyrie have that Nets availability, and I think I've got the people who were on that call to hand. So there was Michael Grady from the Yes Network, Tom O'Dowd from the in-house Nets writer, Greg Logan from Newsday, Brian Lewis from the New York Post, Alex Schiffer from The Athletic, Malika Andrews from ESPN, Christian Winfield from the New York Daily News, and Otis Livingston from CBS New York. All of those I recognize from Twitter, and they're all like, I think what it could have been, and this is where obviously you just start making stuff up, right? It could be that Kyrie has said, I will talk to these guys because he respects what they do, or he's had positive relationships with them in the past. But I think what we should probably do is almost like, just like you said, and it's like, you shouldn't treat the media as one big homogenous kind of entity. You've got the people with journalistic integrity, that though these kind of writers that follow the team and they're very good at what they do, but then you've got like the kind of talking head sort of side of the media, which are their whole content is based on having a row, getting clicks, saying stuff that's a bit edgy just to kind of spark debate on Twitter. So I think if I was Kyrie, and where he's talking about basketball being when he performs and he's an artist and all this kind of stuff, and he talks about it in a really, really unique way, which I love. I think it's nice that it wouldn't surprise me if he's made that kind of, well, he'd probably enjoy talking more about basketball to these guys because they're going to ask him more intelligent questions. Like you said, Cammy, he's a clever bloke. He's a very articulate bloke. So I think that's probably what it is. It's like there may have been some sort of meeting with the Nets organization and Kyrie where he said, look, we can't take 25 grand every time you should be talking to the media. And maybe he's put out some terms, but we don't know that. And maybe this was the plan all along. But I guess we shall wait and see. I did pick up on the 7-Eleven nickname, which I love. And another thing I picked up from it was like an 18-minute interview, which is really, really cool. It wasn't just like a quick in and done, really sort of stroppy, just getting out in and out of it. Like you say, he was very cordial to all the people on the call. But when he was asked a question about his relationship with KD, he was really keen to put across that he and KD were part of the wider team, and he didn't want, it was something that I think KD noted in his time in the Warriors. It was always KD and the Warriors. And I think Kyrie is kind of putting his foot down early, not putting his foot down angrily, but just sort of getting that narrative out there. So it's not KD, Kyrie and the Nets, it's the Nets, which I really liked. And I think it was just a small thing. But I think stuff like that is that just goes to show the kind of mentality he's got, where it's like we're all in this together. No one person is bigger than everyone else. So I think that was just a really, really good sign for me. But moving on to something else that came out this week, not about KD or Kyrie, which is nice, is Caris LeVert possibly coming off the bench. And so before the Washington game, which we'll get on in a bit, when asked if Caris would come straight back into the lineup, because obviously he was injured to face Boston, Steve Nash said this. He said, Caris is a starter. Will he start for us? I'm not sure. He's so good with the ball in his hands. There's a case to be made that he plays that Ginobili role, where he's clearly a starter. Manu played in all-star games, started on the bench, ran the second unit, and closed games. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. It's a great luxury to have. Obviously, we kind of saw that in the Nets taking on the Celtics. But what did you guys think of that? The early talk of the season was Spencer coming in and playing sixth man of the year. Could that be Caris? What do you think of Caris coming off the bench?
I mean, I think this one took all of us by surprise, actually. We were all kind of expecting big things from him. We're kind of labelling him that third star in the team. And to kind of hear that he was, I mean, saying reduced maybe a little harsh because he's still going to play a lot. And, I mean, if he's going to play how he did against the Celtics, he dropped to 18 points, which I think was the second most in the team behind KD. But if he plays like that off the bench as a sixth man, yeah, can play like that and kind of that role all season long if that's how he's going to be. And I think, as you kind of said with Nash about him being a good ball handler and stuff, I think when we seen Dinwiddie play, he wasn't really all that great in that Boston game. And perhaps this is maybe Nash seeing the better side of giving LeVert more time on the ball. And if he comes on with the second unit, he can be that star. Whereas if he's playing with KD and Kyrie from the start, he's not really going to have the ball as much. But if he can kind of control things and part of that kind of second string and even close out games, well, I think Caris will probably take that as well. Rather than just kind of be the third option, he's always going to be that first option in that second unit. And whether he stays the sixth man kind of throughout the year, I think it kind of like the DJ and Jarrett Allen situation we've spoken about. I think it could be situational depending on matchups and stuff like that. That will be between him and Spence for that sixth man. But yeah, just kind of to wait and see. But certainly the first showings we've seen against Boston were very positive.
Yeah, I think you made some really good points there, Cammy. I mean, I'm 100% glad that Steve Nash is the head coach and not me, because I did not like this idea at all to start with, to be honest with you. It made me think of that really kind of ugly 2K automatic lineup from last year when they used to have Dinwiddie playing at the 2, and I'm just like, oh no, just get him off the bench. It works so much better if LeVert's in there. But yeah, somehow for me, I thought it works absolutely perfectly. I thought Caris looked absolutely awesome last night against Boston. He looks like he's elevated his game again, which I didn't think would be possible under the circumstances. And yeah, as you said, Matt, I think he's definitely a very strong candidate for Sixth Man of the Year. I talked about Caris, obviously, in my preview when we done the team previews a couple of weeks ago, and how he was talking about who he's likely to play off the ball. He's kind of training off the ball. But yeah, as you said, Cammy, I actually think he's too good for that. And I think as a facilitator, he's really good. And if he's playing against second units and with the second unit, he's going to be fantastic, I think. Popped a tweet out earlier. I think Spencer in that in the first unit, due to his kind of facilitating, it gives Kyrie that chance to be such a good scorer, and which I really like. And it means he can kind of focus on that. Because obviously the thing we see about Spencer is when he first came, it was that assist to turnover ratio that made Nets fans fall in love with him, because it was some crazy numbers that he was getting when he was being the main facilitator. And I think Caris is a good facilitator, but because he's so good at scoring, if we can have that option off the bench, I just think it's going to be so difficult for second units to manage to contain him. And yeah, I think he could be that Manu Ginobili type of character where he could be the Sixth Man of the Year, but he could also be an all-star. So, I mean, I don't think any Nets fan would turn that down, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it makes it sound so like, why didn't we think of this, like, as Nets fans? Because it works so well. It's like, it's balancing third star and third option, because you know what I mean. It's just like you've rightly said. It's like the whole chat was like, there's only so much ball to go around. But okay, if you let Caris be the first option when Kyrie and KD are on the floor, off the floor, it suddenly starts to make a lot more sense. We actually got a question from our Discord server, which I promised to put in last week, and I'm really, really sorry. So this is from Alfie, who has said about this. He said this last week. He said, obviously Spencer is in for sixth man of the year, or at least he'll aim for that. But do you reckon if Caris becomes our third star, could he be in contention for most improved, as non-Nets fans don't seem to rate him highly?
I think personally, his chances of being most improved player is probably past now. Personally, I think just that season when he went down with his injury, I think that was his chance to be the most improved player that year, and a lot of people were touting him for that. I just think the league kind of now tend to go for that second year type of player that makes that mammoth leap. I'm always thinking about your Pascal Siakam type of leap, Victor Oladipo, that type of person, where they're a role player quite low down, but then they jump to an all-star standard. Just with the way the Nets are this year, I think it'd be very difficult for anyone to be the most improved player just with the lack of minutes that certain players are going to get. But yeah, as we mentioned earlier, I don't think he's out with the question for awards, though. I do think that sixth man of the year is a good chance of getting that. Someone like Landry Shamet could potentially get a most improved player if he puts up good numbers, but it just depends on minutes. But yeah, in terms of Caris, I think his time's probably passed, but I think we can see that as a good thing because he's already an established, well-known player in the league, and I don't think he can make a leap again. Surely not, but maybe. We'll see.
I mean, before getting on to my thoughts on Caris, want to just discuss the Most Improved Player award and want to say D'Lo was robbed a few seasons ago, so I no longer care about it.
Yeah.
But anyhow, with regards to Caris, as Aidan says, his time probably has passed for that. But that's not to say he can't still improve. There's always improvement to be made in every player. And yeah, I think maybe him playing that Ginobili role could shine him in a bit of a better light for the fans who maybe aren't so keen on him, or kind of fans of other teams who aren't so clued up on him. And he might be in contention, but I wouldn't say it would necessarily be a failure if he isn't awarded it or isn't kind of in the running for it. With regards to kind of Spence sixth man of the year, I think I've already said that in previous podcasts that's a possibility. And then with Caris obviously playing the Ginobili role, he could also be in that. And I think, yeah, if one of them win that would be fantastic. But as I say, the most improved player, I think it probably is, as Aidan says, one of the kind of from the first year into the second year, making that real improvement. And yeah, Caris' time's probably passed. But again, D'Lo was robbed.
Nice. We could be in the position where it was the Clippers last season, wasn't it? Where I think it was Montrez and Lou Will were both up for sixth man of the year, which is a bit weird because how can two people of the same team be sixth man if they're coming off the bench? But you know, if it's going to be interchangeable with the starting lineup, then with Spence and Caris, who knows? But yeah, the more awards for this Nets roster, the better. But talking about who will and won't be on the court, the Nets released the City Edition court design since we last podded. I tweeted a link to NBA Locker Vision, which is a really, really cool NBA website, division of NBA.com, which shows you which uniforms every team will be wearing for every game, which is really cool. Cammy, I'm going to come to you. I know you weren't a fan of the jersey. Has the new court won you round?
I mean, it hasn't won me around on the jersey, but the court is very, very cool. I mean, I think, although it's still pretty much the same design, still has the elements of the Basquiat jersey that I wasn't keen on. There's just something really nice about it. All the colours pop really nicely. And yeah, the kit doesn't do it for me, or the jersey, for to be American, should I say, doesn't do it for me. But the court certainly does, and it's definitely up there, kind of as one of our best this season. But I still think the kind of retro blue and red one won't be beaten this season. That is an absolutely outstanding court that we'll play in when we've got that jersey on.
Yeah, I always laugh at kind of the courts, like the new courts that come out, because it always seems to be that like the video games like 2K seem to always release it first. It's like they get given the information so they can upload it to their game. And they're just like, yeah, just submit it quickly, and then we can get the we can get the lead on that story. But yeah, no, absolutely beautiful. Love it. I mean, I'm a fan of the jerseys, so as someone who likes things to match, the fact that we'll be playing in kind of multiple jerseys and court matches this year, I think it's going to be really satisfying to watch. I don't know if you remember, I think it was a couple of years ago when we first got the Coogee jerseys, the biggie jerseys, and they put the Coogee down the side of the courts, and they just put like a sticker down, but they had to remove it like after half an hour because players were slipping on it. So I hope that they've kind of got a more permanent thing this time, so that that no one's going to be slipping on that. But yeah, no, I love it, and I think it's just going to look so good seeing our stars on that wearing that jersey on that court. I think it'll look amazing.
Yeah, same. I think one of my criticisms with the jersey was that, given Basquiat's like artistic style, which is like mad and real colourful, it was quite safe. But I think because we're all rocking Nets merch at the moment, like it's just all about black. There's only so colourful you can go while staying black. So I think this court, with it being so many leery colours, I think it lends itself quite nicely. It tells a bit more of a further story of Basquiat himself. But yeah, I'm a fan. Looks dope. I can't wait to see it actually in use, which would be cool. So I did tweet it out, and I should have got it, but I think it's Christmas Day. The Basquiat jersey first gets released against the Celtics. Or when the Nets first wear it on the court. So we'll have to keep our eyes out for that. But another rumoured jersey, which I think would take the Nets up to 6 for the season, is a leaked earned edition jersey. So they were seemingly leaked for every team this week, and the Nets had like a herringbone / Subway inspired version. Basically are not as good as what Flatbush Atlantic version created a couple of years ago. Shout out to Flatbush and Atlantic. You are very missed from Nets Twitter. But I don't think it's legit. I think it would have been released already, maybe. And we already have the Basquiat, which is the black herringbone, which is feels a bit close to me. And our guy Elliot from Hoopin' and Luton, who is in the jersey business, seems to have his reservations. So, did you guys see that? What do you guys think of it?
Yeah, I mean, I remember the Earn jerseys from, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, and it must have been 3 years ago, because the Nets didn't have one, because I believe they're for teams that made the playoffs the year before.
That's right.
But I don't think they kind of done much with them. If I remember rightly, they sold them, but they didn't actually play in the jerseys, which is a bit weird. But yeah, I thought it was completely cancelled after the first year, when it just kind of completely botched. But yeah, it looks all right. It looks a bit of a rush job to me. If they do release them, I probably won't be rushing to buy them. But saying that, if they're on sale, I'll probably buy one, because I've got a problem when it comes to buying jerseys.
I mean, I think I said when we were discussing the Basquiat one originally, if it was just that kind of herringbone design at the back, it would be really cool. And someone's also listened to me and done this. I like it. Obviously, I don't think either you are too fond of it. Whether it actually comes to fruition or not, I don't really know. But as you say, we've got about 500 jerseys already. So when are we going to fit this in? And given that the kind of jersey schedule, if that's what you'd call that, is already kind of been released, I can't then see another jersey coming out for them then to go, all right, we're just going to rejig everything, because then that will need to mean the other team's jerseys are rejigged, so there's no clashes. And yeah, it just kind of seems from a logistical point of view that probably won't happen. But certainly as far as mock-ups, because I think this is essentially what this is going to be, and be no more than that, I really like it. Nice and simple, and obviously nice to kind of get that Subway kind of link in there as well.
Yeah, nice. I think it's a very, very good nod. I even watching I think it would have been the Wizards game. Even just seeing like the video screens around the court, they've got a really cool, like, all that is Subway inspired. Obviously, they've got like the big D sign for the D train, and that says defense, which I thought was like real cool. So they lean into that Subway stuff loads. So it totally makes sense. I think it is cool. It's certainly a lot more like wearable day to day than the Basquiat or the throwback. yeah, I guess time will tell. But we shall see. But gents, we have actual Nets basketball to talk about, and that hasn't happened a lot on this podcast. So I want to just kind of set the scene for our listeners, just to tell you what you might come to expect when the season does kick in and we're breaking down games. We're not going to go sort of too deep into the X's and O's. There's going to be 72 games this year, and we basically don't have long enough to release hours and hours long podcasts every week. So we're gonna touch on the main talking points from the game. We're also gonna have a little look at our top performances, top plays, and our stat of the game each. So we're gonna start off with the Nets versus the Wizards. So the Nets won 119-114, and it was obviously the whole story going into it was the debut in a Nets jersey of Kevin Durant after 552 days. Obviously last played in the 2019 NBA Finals. Nets fans also hadn't seen Kyrie since the 1st of February, and Ryan Rucco of the Yets Network, rightly, in my opinion, called this the most anticipated preseason game in Nets franchise history. So yeah, tell me your thoughts, guys. What did you think of this game, and what were your first thoughts of seeing KD run out there?
I mean, the first thoughts of seeing the pair of them, as Aidan kind of said at the kind of intro of this, it just didn't seem real, and you just see him knock down shots and drive to the basket, get dunks, and it still didn't quite seem real. And yeah, him and Kyrie were both on fire. They only kind of played that first half. I think did KD get a few minutes at the start of the third, but other than that, I mean, I think I was quite disappointed that we never seen them more. Also, we did get to see them kind of more regular minutes in the Celtics game, which we'll go on to. But I mean, for a first showing of the pair of them, that partnership is absolutely delightful and is going to be a real joy to watch. Kyrie made a especially good start. I think it was 9 points in the kind of first few minutes, and I think he hit all bar one of his first few shots that he took as well. So, I mean, yeah, it was very impressive from the team, and the way we kind of got to the halftime miles ahead, and it was like, right, this is going to be really good. But then kind of the second half, when the second string came out, Kyrie and KD didn't play. Yeah, kind of a few concerns there. We let go of a really huge lead, and kind of in the end, we only won by a few points. But really, I mean, I know it's pre-season, so it doesn't really matter. But it should have been like the Boston game. We should have been 20 or 30 points won easily. But I think it maybe goes to show that the bench maybe needs to have a different rotation, like the second and third strings, because certainly the things weren't working. But obviously, it's worth bearing in mind they'll not be playing as many minutes as they did in that game. So, and it was also a first game for many of them in several months. So yeah, nothing too much to worry about from me. I think that was a good time to finally see all the team together and kind of see what they were up to.
Yeah, I mean, I was just so excited. I woke up that morning and it felt strange just because it had been such a long time. I mean, as Cammy touched on earlier, I mean, obviously we had the bubble kind of during lockdown to keep us going, but there was just something about it that didn't feel real. I think it's just the magic of kind of seeing the Nets play on the Barclays Centre. It's just a package deal for me. And yeah, I was just so excited for it. Yeah, no, spot on. It did not feel real. It was just so strange seeing KD in a Nets uniform because we've been anticipating it for so long, and we've seen him kind of in the suits and his tracksuits on the courtside for so long. For this one, for me, I mean, the score and the result didn't really matter. I mean, the Celtics game was slightly different just because it's so close to the start of the regular season. But for this one, it was just about seeing individual and team performances and getting a feel for each other. I think that's so important. And with only kind of 2 games before the regular season starts, I think it's so important for Nash to get a good idea of what he's going to go for. And I feel like this was the game that he done that. KD was absolutely incredible. I mean, the man oozes greatness. Yeah, anytime he touches the ball, you're on the edge of his seat. And when he made that first dunk, like to get the next first points, I actually was like off my seat. I was just like, wow! I was like, oh my god, I've not had that like moment in ages, and it was really cool. But yeah, Kyrie, his shooting was absolutely incredible. I mean, if he can keep up his form he's had in pre-season, going into the regular season, we're in for a real treat this season. And yeah, seeing guys like Reggie Perry, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but Reggie Perry looked like he was a seasoned kind of NBA player. I thought he looked really good, gave some really good minutes. And the rest of the guys were great too. I know kind of got a bit tight at the end, but you've got to expect that from pre-season. You can't take it into too much account when you're kind of moving those rotations around so much. It's the same in kind of pre-season in any sport, really. But yeah, it was amazing just to see the team again playing on the Barclays Centre, and yeah, it's just getting me even more excited for the regular season starting.
That's right. The main thing I noticed straight away was how, like, the huge smile, the beaming grin on KD's face. He was like a Cheshire cat. And he was talking to Michael Grady before the game. And yeah, he just said he was excited, man. And I think you can tell with KD, he just loves basketball so much. And even him, like, last season when you could see him sort of getting around at training, but sort of in the boot with his hood up and stuff, putting up shots, but looking like you could just see that he really wanted to play. So sort of seeing him actually take the court for the first time, you could see how buzzing he was for it, which was infectious. Obviously, Kyrie just made it look so easy to shoot over people. And although the whole story coming into this was KD, I think Kyrie kind of stole the game performance-wise. And I don't know if you guys clocked this as well. I saw one other person on Twitter say this. Kyrie had a sweatband with number 11 written on it. And that's very reminiscent of another Nets point guard who used to wear a sweatband with their number on it. Obviously, J. Kidd. So I don't know if that's a nod back to something else. He also got, in the interview that we were saying about earlier, Malika Andrews that asked the question, when he got announced onto the court, instead of being announced from Duke University, he got announced as from New Jersey. So I'm just wondering if he's just like, maybe for the home games or something, he's going to have this proper leaning into and sort of repping his home state, which I loved. And I'm also giving him, my stat of the game is he was 77% from the field for 18 points, which is mad. So it was like 7 from 9 from the field, 2 of 3 from 3, in just 17 minutes. So he was on another planet. So yeah, it was a wicked game, and yeah, it was really, really good. But I really, really want to talk about this game. The next game, so the Nets took on the Celtics, and I was just talking to Rich Barrett of NBA UK fans in the Instagram DMs, and I as I do, I share the previous game's score on our Instagram stories so everyone can see. And he said it's only preseason. And Rich is a great guy. He's not one of these salty Boston fans, but like it's just quite funny. And I'm like, no, you let me be excited, because it was an absolute massacre. We nuked them. The Nets won 113-89. And in Kyrie's obviously first return to Boston since he stopped pulling on that green jersey. And the main thing that happened, the main talking point from the game happened before the game, I think, and that was with Kyrie burning sage and cleansing the negative energy. What did you guys think of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to note, I'm always going to seem like I'm the man that always defends Kyrie Irving, but I am. But that he did do it before the Wizards game at the Barclays Centre as well. And yeah, there was this really sweet moment in his interview after the game where he was saying, he was like, look, he's like, I've done this before the game. I plan on doing it before every other game as well. Just trying to create a positive environment, safety of our players and the opposition players as well, who just want no one to get injured. And I was like, oh man, he's such a nice guy. He's like, how could anyone not like him? But yeah, no, it's things like that. I mean, the media are always going to have a field day with something like that. But yeah, no, I thought it was a bit of fun. It shows his character as well. But yeah, it once again adds to that that Boston cancer Kyrie brigade that gets debunked every single time when there's like a news story that comes out. I mean, the Celtics players were lining up at the end of the game to speak to Kyrie, and Robert Williams was even begging for his jersey at the end of the game. So, I mean, it's not like he's going back there and it's a negative environment. The players seem to absolutely love him, and I think he was saying to all the coaches as well, he was going up and speaking to them. So yeah, again, the media are going to have a field day with something like this, but yeah, it seems to be, this is just the type of guy he is, and he's going to do something like this before every game.
I mean, let's be honest, if he's going to bun stage every game and perform how he has in both pre-season games, he can bun whatever he wants. If he keeps doing well, obviously legal, I hope.
Obviously legal, I was waiting to say.
But they're not testing for it this season, are they?
No, that's true, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if he wants to do it and that makes him feel better, gets him in a good mindset to perform, so be it. There's tons of players out there who have the kind of rituals, or put my kind of right shoe on before my left shoe, or I always lace this up that way, lace that one this way. And yeah, if that makes them feel better and play well, I mean, I don't think we can really complain whatsoever. And yeah, just kind of need to wait and see. It doesn't really bother me if he does it or doesn't, or what other players do. As I say, I think the most important thing is if they perform. If he continues to do it and we maybe hit a slump perform, I think the media might start going, oh, he's too busy burning such and such in these arenas and stuff. And it could become a negative, but yeah, don't need to think about that. I think if he wants to do it, let him do it.
Yeah, nice. I think, like you say, it's almost like you can't really dig at someone's spirituality. Like if it's something that the opposing team are happy for him to do, and there's just like, cool, you crack on, mate. But I'm very much looking forward to it becoming a selectable pre-game ritual that you can select on 2K. Because, you know, you got the chalk toss, you've got the Tim Duncan ball hug, you've got the chin-ups on the rim. I just want to see players being able to kind of go around and burn sage on 2K. But if we get into the game itself, this was our first look at the three stars together. Obviously, Caris LeVert back in the lineup. But this was another where, for me, KD just took over. And I was just taken back by how good he looks. I think everyone, you know, the chat was, you know, even if we get an 80% KD, that's still a really good player and stuff. But it doesn't look like he's missed a game. I mean, I was expecting it to take a few games, but he's firing on all cylinders on both ends of the floor. I think he had 3 blocks in this game. He was running in transition. He was doing everything. KD is back. Doesn't look like he's missed a step. And the scary thing is, this team are only going to get better as they get more accustomed to playing with each other. And that's a scary thought for any opposing team that sees the Nets coming up on their schedule. I think KD and Kyrie, like you said, Cammy, they don't think they did play in the second half of the Wizards game. They got a bit more of a run out against the Celtics. But yeah, I will say the Celtics did have a horrendous night from 3-point range. And I want to put that down to good defense on our point. And we need to remember this is still preseason, but they shot something like 17% from 3. Which was really bad. But yeah, I did another thing just on KD was I loved seeing KD's pull up 3. So when he's running the floor and he's coming up, he's taking the ball up the court, and just like with all the shot clock left, he just pulls up and he just pops, and that's just got to be so crushing and so soul destroying just to see this 7-footer just bowl up and just launch and nail a 3-pointer, and there's just nothing you can do. So it's beautiful to see that. And yeah, 25 points in 27 minutes. But also a big shout out in terms of performance. Shout out to Joe Harris, who was 4 from 7 from 3 after putting up some like pretty contested threes, which is Joe's pretty clever when it comes to taking good shots. But I think maybe he's getting some whispers saying that he should be trying to hit some more contested shots. But that was really, really cool. And yeah, mini throw Caris looking good, who had an efficient 18 points off the bench. 50% from the floor, Joe Harris as well, 57 point from 3. It was a good game. It's only preseason, and we got to say that, but cool, what a preseason game it was.
Yeah, I mean, it was absolutely fantastic, and we thought KD was good against the Wizards. He was even better against the Celtics, and that still wasn't even playing the kind of full amount of minutes. And if he's getting 25 points in 27 minutes, who knows how many points he's going to get when he's getting 30-plus minutes a night. I mean, I think, as you say, both ends of the floor, he was absolutely superb. That pull-up three was... That was kind of one of those, yep, KD's definitely back. It was so nice, and you just knew that was going to happen. And I mean, you'd mentioned the kind of the defense, and initially I was quite critical of the fact we were giving them so many open threes, but ultimately it paid off because they couldn't buy a 3-point shot or one going in anyway. They got plenty attempts, but they just couldn't get them in. Marcus Smart, Christ, I think he maybe got one in about 10 attempts or something ridiculous like that. He just really struggled. And I mean, at first I was like, no, we can't be doing this. We will get torched against teams with better 3-point shooters. But I mean, I think that we kind of played into that. We realised they were going to keep trying to force it and think, oh, we'll just keep turning around. Well, things will go in our way. But it just didn't. And I mean, I don't think you can really complain much. The bench, I was critical of them in that Wizards game, but he came up huge in this one. I think the final score for them was 52 points. You already mentioned Caris grabbing 18 of them. And to be able to score 52 points with your bench players, we're going to win a lot of games if that is what the second and third string can come up, in addition to the 60-odd that the kind of first string can put up in the first. Like, also when they're on the court. And yeah, we're going to win tons of games if the bench can near enough match the output of the starters. And yeah, I mean, a really fantastic performance. We absolutely massacred the Celtics. And whilst a lot of people will go, oh, it's pre-season, the Celtics aren't any mugs. And a lot of these pre-season games, the tempo of them's actually surprised me. I know in football, the other sport I follow, pre-season games are very much played at a kind of training game tempo. Teams aren't wanting to do too much. It's just about kind of getting fit. But there were a lot of players really going for it in this one, and that was great to see. So yeah, really chuffed with kind of how that one went out. I'll let Aidan discuss, but I do want to come back to discuss Spencer Dinwiddie's performance once he's spoken.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I can say much more than what you guys said. It was absolutely fantastic. I mean, yeah, I mean, Cammy nailed it when he was saying about the standard of the game. I mean, you have to look at Boston were going for it too. I mean, Jason Tatum was definitely going for it. I thought he was on fire. He looked really good, actually. But yeah, you just need to look at Jeff Green when he done that dunk. I think it was over Robert Williams. I'm not sure. Actually, ESPN went, "Oh, DJ," and I was like, "No, it's not DeAndre Jordan. That's Jeff Green. That's Uncle Jeff." Yeah, he looked great as well. But yeah, some great minutes all around again. I mean, you guys nailed it with KD. I mean, that 3 off the dribble was the moment for me as well when I thought, this guy is back. He is the KD of the past. I mean, I always go back to D'Angelo Russell and I talk about him so much, but it was when D'Angelo Russell caught flames and every time he shot, it just felt like it was going to go in. I've not had that in a while where I've had that type of player on this Nets team, but Kevin Durant, he's going to catch flames almost every game at some point. You said it, Matt. The 3 blocks was really poignant for me. It's easy to forget because of he's one of the best defensive players to ever play the game, that he's actually one of the best defenders in the league. And he's such a luxury to have. I thought Jarrett Allen gave some really good minutes last night. Really good to see him fighting for position. I mean, we've touched on it before that he's clearly not going to have that starting role to start with. He's going to have to fight to get minutes, and with them playing KD at the 5 at certain times, he's really going to have to go hard. And I thought he gave some good minutes last night. And yeah, Joe Harris, I mean, we didn't see it in the Wizards game because he didn't get too many opportunities, but his shooting's improved again. One of the things that I really liked was when Caris LeVert was getting interviewed after the game, he just went, yeah, Joe, he's like, when he misses, I'm shocked. He's like, when I miss him, he's shocked. I love that. And I think it's true. When he does miss, you just think he's automatically going to score. So you do get a shot going, how's he missed that? But it's just because he's so consistent. But yeah, just to touch on Caris LeVert quickly, I mean, we've kind of got a good idea of what his role's going to look like for the first half of the season. But there was that moment in the second or third quarter when he was playing with KD and Kyrie, when he was taking almost every shot, which I found really interesting. But I think he had a 3, he had a couple of isolation 2s, and he had a steal in the space of about a minute. You have to remember, this guy is really good as well, and this guy's led this Nets team for the last couple of years. So yeah, it's just again, it's the depth and the sheer quality all the way through, say, 10 positions, and then we've got some good players for another 5 through this team. And I think this game gave us a real good idea that not everyone's going to get minutes, but if it gets to the stage where we need someone else to come in, we've got that quality to come in, and we've got to be thankful for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've got to be. But going back to Spencer Dinwiddie now, Spence, for me, really disappointed in this one. I think my kind of stat of this game was the fact he only went 1 of 7 with his shooting, a total of 4 points in the game. And I mean, yeah, this wasn't the kind of performance we were expecting. Also, we'd kind of spoken about him a bit earlier on, kind of 6th man of the year contention. He's going to be nowhere near it if he performs like this. And I'm kind of in two minds about it, because I'm not sure if it was just due to the fact he was in amongst the starters, he was playing against kind of better quality player. We've always kind of said he's a point guard who could start for pretty much every other team in the league. Or, yeah, I'll go with that, actually. And I don't know if he maybe just suffered by the fact he was, one, playing out of position. He was kind of playing at shooting guard alongside with Kyrie at the point. And I don't know if that maybe had a kind of impact on his game. And then the fact it was just with KD and Kyrie on the court in general, he wasn't the kind of the main guy like he is on the second string. Kind of like what we'd spoken with Caris earlier on. And kind of when you're that main man on that second string and you're one of the better players, you really stand out. But maybe just kind of blends in a bit too much in amongst the starters. But yeah, one thing I also did notice about him was the fact that although Kyrie was on the court, it was quite often Spence that was carrying the ball up the court. And I felt this worked quite well. It was allowing Kyrie to get in quite a lot of good spaces, and was I think a different way to go about things. Obviously, I think we all know Kyrie's qualities as a ball handler and dribbling and stuff like that, but to be able to kind of give him that chance to get off the ball kind of entirely and wiggle his way around with his kind of movement and stuff, I think that adds another string to our bow when it comes to options we've got, and you can't really complain with that. But certainly Spence has to be performing better if he's wanting to be that starter.
Yeah, time will tell. Like we keep saying, it's a nice problem to have, sort of shuffling this deck and dealing with this embarrassment of riches we have, especially in the guards. But yeah, so we're gonna go into something a little bit more light-hearted now. We've spoken enough basketball, really, for tonight at least. Christmas is just around the corner. As we record this, it's Saturday the 19th of December. So this time next week, it will be fully Christmas time. And this is a segment we've come up with called Merry Netsmas. And I just thought it'd be a nice bit of fun just to see what Nets-based sort of names we could come up with. I spent way too much time on this. So let's see what you guys have got.
Right, okay. So yeah, I struggled with this. It was good fun kind of going through, but I'll pick out a few of my best. I actually messaged the boys earlier on and was like, give me some help, because the best I can come up with is Perry Christmas, which isn't great, to be honest with you. So I had to take a further look. My two best, I'll give you my two best. St. Nicholas Claxton. I like that. I thought there was something quite nice about that. And to go out with the players, I got Joe Silent Night, which I liked.
Nice. No, I did really like Perry Christmas as well. That annoyed me that I hadn't come up with that, to be fair. Or you got, Cammy?
So the kind of first one that I kind of put in the chat was Missile Joe Harris. Then we've got Christmas Chioza. Whether he's going to be a net come Christmas, we're not too sure. Hopefully for you, Matt, he is. We know you're a big fan. And then the final one that I'm a bit embarrassed to say, I think it is horrific, but Steve gnashing through the snow.
Oh, that's good. That's very
incredible. Good. No, I love that. Gnashing through the snow. Yeah, pretty amazing. So, as I say, I spent way too much time on this. I've got Merry Caris LeVert. I went with Reggie Sherry, because it's something your mother-in-law might drink at Christmas. I've gone for Landry Shamet as well.
That's good.
I went with the ultimate Christmas film, but I went with Kai Hard, because Kyrie Irving is going by Kai this season, Kai. Thought I'd throw that one out there. Everyone loves a cheese board at Christmas, and obviously that's Chris Chioza is cheese. Amari Sprout Demeyer, everyone's least favorite part of a Christmas dinner. And going it all out with probably the worst one, Christmas Tree Andre Jordan.
I was thinking that one, but I thought it was weak, so I'll let you take that one.
No. So that's just what we thought. Obviously, if you can think of any more Merry Netsmas names, do get at us on Twitter at BK2UKPod or at UK Nets Fans. I also thought it would be nice, obviously Christmas being the season of giving. It's a charitable time. Guys, if you could give a gift to a Net, what would it be and who would you give it to?
I think any Nets fan, Nets player, anyone involved with the Nets could possibly wish for is a good start to the season. But to be a bit more specific, I'm going to go with, for the whole team, trophy polish, because we're going to need that come the end of the season. And why not be prepared? And another one, plenty of sage for Kyrie Irving as well.
Nice.
Yeah, it's been a tough year, so I've decided to go with a joint gift for Spencer Dinwiddie and DeAndre Jordan. So I've booked them a week at Centre Parks so that they can build up the relationship, because their alley-oop attempts in the last 2 seasons have been absolutely shocking. So it'd be nice to see them build up a bit of a knowledge of each other, and hopefully we'll see some alley-oops between the two of them within the next season.
And you think going on kind of activities like that's going to do that job, is it?
Yeah, 100%. Plus, yeah, we probably need to explain to the American listeners what Centre Parks is as well, because they probably have no clue what we're talking about.
This is a UK podcast. If you Google Centre Parks, and you know what we're talking about. We'll be getting around on a tandem bike, doing like archery lessons or something. Yeah, amazing. No, that's incredible. So I want, with obviously more sage for Kyrie, as you quite rightly say. Jarrett Allen, I would like to give a subscription box to Head and Shoulders so we can keep that throw looking tight. And I'm going to buy Chris Chiozza a puffer jacket, because I hear that Long Island is chilly this time of year, and I got a bad feeling about one of my favorite Nets is probably going to be spending a little bit of time in Long Island this year. But again, if you'd like to give a Net any Christmas present, what would it be, and who would you give it to? And I don't think you can beat a weekend away at Centre Parks, because that was incredible. But so, as we did touch on, it is nearly Christmas. We're not actually going to be here for a couple of weeks. We're going to take the festive period off. So we're going to have a look ahead, which we're going to do in these podcasts going forward, but it'll normally be for just 1 week ahead, and see what games we're going to have played before we pod next. But the Nets will play 10 games before we're back in your ears. And these, I thought I'd tap up Aidan and Cammy, and we're going to see a prediction of what record the Nets are going to have over the next 10 games before BK2 UK is back. So I'm just going to go through the schedule over the next 10 games. So we are facing the Warriors on opening night, and then we go travel to the Celtics on Christmas Day. Then we visit Charlotte on the 27th. And then these next games are all at home. So we play Memphis on the 28th. There's a double header against Atlanta on the 30th and the 1st of January. Then we play Washington again. Then we play Utah on the 5th. We play Philly on the 7th. And then we travel to Memphis on the 8th. So we're going to keep a record of these throughout the season, just to see who's got the best prediction skills. Gents, what do you think our record's going to be over those 10 games?
I'm going to say over those 10, we're looking at, I'm going to go all out. I'm going to say we're going to win 9 and lose 1. I think we're going to start really strong. I think these pre-season games, despite them being pre-season, we've had a good indicator of what this team's all about. And I think we will go into every single game this year looking to win, which is always the situation, but I think we should expect to win as well. So yeah, 9-1. I think we'll drop something like, I think we'll win the games that you might expect us to drop, but like something like a Utah or Memphis is where we're going to drop a game. It just seems to always be that type of game where that type of team can turn up on any night and beat you. But I think I think we're going to sweep opening week, and then go on a nice run, and then maybe drop one along the way. But I think we'll be sitting pretty by the time we're podding next.
I'm not too far off in my kind of prediction. I'm going to have us going 8-2. I think we could potentially slip up against Philly. I've just kind of got a weird feeling about that one, and then maybe lose one of the other ones I think we're expected to win, whether that be kind of probably against one of those lesser sides. Perhaps maybe the Atlanta double header, obviously quite close together, so maybe that could make a difference. But I think if we go 8-2 to start the season, that would be fantastic, and I wouldn't complain. But if it's Aidan's prediction that comes true, I'd be even happier.
Yeah, nice. I think to be fair, I was stuck between. I want us to go 9-1. I want us to go 10-0, obviously, but I think we'll go 8-2. But I can't. So here's my thinking. So I think where we're playing in Charlotte on the 27th, and then we travel, and then we come home and play Memphis on the second day of that back-to-back. That could be one that we drop, just purely because of load management, and stuff happening. I agree with what you say, Cammy, about Philly. Obviously, last year, were they really good on the road and rubbish at home, or was it the other way around?
Not 100% sure, actually.
Because it was one of them.
So they had a good record, yeah.
Yeah, so if depends on what Philly team turn up, that might be a bit of a headache for us. But I'm gonna say 8-2 as well. So we're gonna see, as I say, we're gonna keep these logged down. We're gonna write these down, and we're gonna see who's got bragging rights at the end of the season. But that's it. As I mentioned before, that's going to do us for this episode. And in fact, that's going to do us for the rest of the year. We're going to take a couple of weeks off recording the podcast, and we're going to enjoy the start of this new season at home with our families. You'll still be able to get us on Twitter. If you do want to chat Nets basketball, we're obviously going to be watching every step of the way. 2020 has been a rough year for us all. And now with Christmas coming into even more doubt, it's likely to stay a little rough for a little while yet. And as happy as we are, and as I am, to have Nets basketball back, I'm going to leave you with this thought. Basketball is an exciting, beautiful, all-consuming game, but it is just that. It's a game. It's our favourite game. It's a game that we love dearly. But the most important thing at this time of year is that we look out for each other. So for everyone at UK Nets fans, I just want to wish you all a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, and we'll see you in 2021.
Q Nation through the snow.